Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the exploration vessel Starbound as it drifted through the quiet darkness of space near the Vega system. The ship had been on routine patrol for 3 weeks now, and nothing interesting had happened. His crew was getting restless, and Jake could not blame them. Space exploration sounded exciting until you realized how much empty space there really was between the stars. The year was 2387. And humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 43 years now. It felt like yesterday when humans first learned they were not alone in the universe. Jake remembered the stories his grandfather used to tell about those early days when Earth was still figuring out how to build ships that could travel faster than light. "Captain, we are getting an encrypted message," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station at Communications. She looked puzzled as she read her instruments. "It is coming from the Narration system, but the encryption is really old. Like 40 years old." Jake raised an eyebrow. The Narration system was home to the Zilani people. They were a peaceful species that lived in the vast oceans of their water world called Naraya Prime. Jake had never met a Zilani in person, but he knew they were important to human history. They had been the first alien species to make contact with Earth all those years ago. "Can you decode it?" Jake asked. Amy worked at her console for several minutes. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried different decryption methods. Finally, she looked up with surprise on her face. "Got it, Captain, but this is strange. The message is addressed specifically to any human vessel that receives it. Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The view screen flickered and then showed the image of a Zilani. Jake had seen pictures before, but never a live transmission. The alien looked like a cross between a dolphin and a person. Its skin was smooth and blue-gray, and it had large, dark eyes that seemed very intelligent. The Zilani was clearly underwater as small bubbles rose from gill slits on the sides of its neck. "Greetings, friends of humanity," the Zilani said in accented but clear English. "I am Elder Kalthara of the Naraya Prime Colony. I send this message in hopes that it will reach human ears. We would not normally ask for help as we do not wish to be a burden to anyone. But our situation has become desperate and we have no one else to turn to." Jake leaned forward in his chair. The Zilani looked tired and worried. This was clearly not a routine diplomatic message. "Our world is dying," Kalthara continued. "Great. Shifts in the planet beneath our oceans are draining the water into the core of Naraya Prime. Our scientists estimate that within 2 years, the water levels will drop so low that our cities will be exposed to the deadly atmosphere above. Our people cannot survive outside the water for more than a few hours." The image showed scenes of the Zilani homeworld. Jake could see massive whirlpools where the ocean was being sucked down into cracks in the seafloor. Entire underwater cities were being abandoned as the water level dropped. Thousands of Zilani were fleeing to deeper parts of the ocean, but even those areas were slowly draining away. "We have asked the Galactic Council for help," Kalthara said. "They have declared our situation too expensive to fix. They say it would cost too much to save our world and that we should simply relocate to another planet. But we cannot live anywhere else. Our bodies need the specific minerals and pressure of our home ocean. Without Naraya Prime, we will all die within a generation." Jake felt his stomach tighten. He remembered learning about the Zilani in school. When humanity first developed faster than light travel, their ships were slow and unreliable. Human explorers kept getting lost in space because they did not understand how to navigate between the stars properly. Then they met the Zilani. The Zilani had been traveling through space for thousands of years. They had perfect star charts and navigation data for half the galaxy. When they discovered that humans were struggling with space travel, the Zilani shared all their knowledge freely. They gave Earth the quantum drive specifications that made modern human ships possible. They taught human pilots how to read stellar currents and avoid dangerous areas of space. Most alien species had treated humans like ignorant children when they first joined the galactic community. They made fun of human technology and refused to share important information, but the Zilani were different. They treated humans as equals from the very beginning. They said that any species brave enough to reach for the stars deserved respect and help. We understand if you cannot help us, Kelthara continued. You owe us nothing. The knowledge we shared long ago was given freely as a gift between friends. But if there is any way that humanity might assist us, we would be forever grateful. Our children will not see another generation if our world continues to die. Please consider our request. This message will repeat on all frequencies until our communication systems fail. The transmission ended and the screen went dark. Jake sat in silence for a moment, thinking about what he had just seen. His crew was quiet too. Everyone on the bridge knew the story of first contact with the Zilani. Every human child learned about it in school. Amy, send a priority message to Earth Command immediately, Jake ordered. Mark it urgent and include the full Zilani transmission. Also send copies to the Colonial Authority and the Diplomatic Corps. Yes, sir, Amy replied and began working on the message. Jake stood up and walked to the front view screen. He could see the distant stars of the Narration system from here. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was slowly dying while the galaxy turned its back on them. The Zilani had given humanity the gift of the stars. Without their help, humans might still be struggling to leave their own solar system. Sir, what are your orders? Asked Commander Lisa Brooks, his second-in-command. Jake thought for a moment. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. And Lisa, yes, sir, send a message to the Zilani. Tell them their message was received and that humanity has not forgotten our friends. Tell them help is coming, Lisa smiled. Right away, Captain. As the Starbound turned toward Earth, Jake wondered what could possibly be done to save an entire ocean world. The Galactic Council had the resources of hundreds of species, but they said it was impossible. What could humanity do that the rest of the galaxy could not? But Jake also remembered something his grandfather had told him about humans. We do not give up on our friends, the old man had said. That is what makes us different from everyone else in this galaxy. When someone helps us, we remember it forever. And when our friends need help, we move heaven and earth to give it to them. Jake looked at the stars ahead and made a silent promise to the Zilani. Humanity would find a way. They always did when it really mattered. President Alex Rodriguez stood at the head of the long conference table in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the Capitol building on Earth. The room was filled with the most important people in human space. Military leaders sat next to scientists and diplomats. Everyone looked worried as they watched the Zilani message for the third time. How long do we have? President Rodriguez asked as the transmission ended. Dr. Maya Patel cleared her throat. She was Earth's top planetary engineer and had been studying the data from Naraya Prime all night. According to the Zilani measurements, the ocean levels are dropping at an increasing rate. The tectonic shifts are getting worse. I estimate 18 months before the water levels reach critical levels, maybe less. Admiral John Harris leaned back in his chair. He commanded the human space fleet, and his face showed how impossible this situation seemed. Mr. President, we are talking about saving an entire ocean world. The Galactic Council has resources we can only dream of. If they say it cannot be done, then maybe we need to accept reality. No, said Commander Lisa Brooks. Firmly, she had arrived on Earth just hours ago aboard the Starbound. The Zilani saved us 40 years ago. When every other species in the galaxy treated us like stupid children, the Zilani gave us the stars. They shared their navigation data and quantum drive technology freely. They asked for nothing in return except friendship. Ambassador Linda Carter nodded in agreement. She had been working with alien species for 20 years and knew the political situation better than anyone. Lisa is right. Without the Zilani, we would still be struggling with slow ships and bad navigation. Human expansion into space would have taken centuries instead of decades. We owe them everything. Dr. Maya Patel pulled up a holographic display of Naraya Prime. The blue water world rotated slowly in the center of the table. Red areas showed where the ocean was draining into the planet's core. The problem is massive tectonic instability. The planet's crust is shifting and creating huge cracks in the ocean floor. All the water is being sucked down into the molten core where it turns to steam and escapes into space. What would it take to fix it? Asked President Rodriguez. Dr. Patel touched the hologram and it zoomed in to show Naraya Prime's moon. The moon's orbit has been slowly decaying for thousands of years. As it gets closer to the planet, it creates stronger tidal forces. Those forces are what is causing the tectonic instability. If we could move the moon back to a stable orbit, the tectonic activity would calm down and the ocean would stop draining. Admiral Harris laughed, but there was no humor in it. Move a moon? Do you have any idea how impossible that sounds? We would need gravitational manipulators the size of space stations. The power requirements alone would drain the energy output of a dozen star systems. It has never been tried before, Dr. Patel admitted. But the theory is sound. We would need to build massive gravitational field generators in space around the moon. Then we could use artificial gravity wells to slowly push the moon into a higher orbit. The key word is slowly. Any sudden movements would shatter the moon or send it flying off into space. Chief Engineer Carlos Rivera had been quiet during the discussion, but now he spoke up. I have been running calculations on my portable computer. The engineering challenges are incredible but not impossible. We would need exotic materials that do not exist in large quantities. We would need construction crews working in the dangerous radiation environment near Naraya Prime, and we would need the help of other species because humans do not have enough ships and equipment to do this alone. Ambassador Linda Carter looked thoughtful. The problem is that the Galactic Council has already refused to help. If we try to do this ourselves, we will be going against their decision. That could cause political problems for humanity. I do not care about political problems, said Commander Lisa Brooks angrily. The Zilani are dying. They helped us when we needed it most, and now they need our help. Politics can wait. President Rodriguez walked to the window and looked out at the night sky. He could see the lights of orbital stations and ships moving between Earth and the moon. All of that human presence in space existed because the Zilani had shared their knowledge decades ago. Without their help, humans might still be limited to their home solar system. How many people would it take? The president asked without turning around. Dr. Maya Patel checked her notes. Conservative estimate, 50,000 construction workers, 1,000 engineers and scientists, support crews for life support and logistics. We would basically need to build a temporary city in space around Naraya Prime. And how long would the project take? President Rodriguez continued. 8 to 10 months, Dr. Patel replied. If everything goes perfectly and we have no major problems, more likely it would take over a year. Admiral Harris shook his head. Mr. President, this is madness. Even if we could somehow get the resources and manpower, the chances of success are tiny. One mistake, and we could destroy the moon entirely. Then the Zilani would be worse off than before. President Rodriguez turned back to face the room. His expression was determined. John, I understand your concerns. This is the most ambitious project humanity has ever attempted. The risks are enormous and the chances of failure are high. But I keep thinking about what the Zilani did for us. He walked back to the table and looked at each person in turn. 40 years ago, we were alone in a galaxy that did not want us. Our ships were slow and unreliable. Other species laughed at our technology and refused to help us. Then we met the Zilani. They could have ignored us or treated us like all the other species did. Instead, they welcomed us as friends. They gave us knowledge that was worth more than all the gold on Earth. They asked for nothing in return. Commander Lisa Brooks stood up. The Zilani believed in us when no one else would. They saw something in humanity that even we did not know was there. Now they are dying and they have nowhere else to turn. We are their only hope. The Galactic Council thinks this project is impossible, said Chief Engineer Carlos Rivera. Maybe they are right. But humans have a history of doing impossible things. We went from riding horses to traveling between stars in less than 200 years. We have never been good at accepting that something cannot be done. President Rodriguez made his decision. We are going to save Nerea Prime. I do not care what the rest of the galaxy thinks. I do not care how impossible it seems. The Zolani trusted us with the secrets of space travel, and we are going to trust them with our friendship. He looked around the room at the shocked faces. Maya, I want you to put together the best engineering team in human space. Carlos, you will be in charge of construction and logistics. Linda, you need to contact every species that owes humanity a favor. We are going to need help and resources from across the galaxy. Sir, what if other species refuse to help? Asked Ambassador Carter. Then we do it ourselves, President Rodriguez replied. Humanity never abandons its friends. We will save Nerea Prime even if we have to move heaven and earth to do it. And in this case, we are literally going to move part of heaven. Admiral Harris looked worried. Mr. President, if this project fails, it could bankrupt the human colonies. We would be using resources that are needed for defense and expansion. Jean the Zolani gave us the galaxy, President Rodriguez said firmly. Without their help, we would not have colonies to defend or space to expand into. This is not about money or resources. This is about who we are as a species. We do not forget our friends, and we do not let them down when they need us most. Doctor. Maya Patel was already making notes on her tablet. I will need access to the best gravitational physicists in human space. And we will need to start gathering exotic materials immediately. The rare earth elements alone will cost more than most. Planetary budgets. You will have whatever you need, President Rodriguez promised. Send word to every human colony and space station. Tell them what we are doing and why. Ask for volunteers and donations. I have a feeling that once people understand what is at stake, they will want to help. Commander Lisa Brooks smiled for the first time since arriving on Earth. The Zolani message said their children will not see another generation if their world continues to die. Now we can tell them that human children will work alongside Zolani children for generations to come. Because that is what friends do for each other. President Rodriguez nodded. Send a message to Elder Kalthara. Tell him that humanity has received his call for help. Tell him that we remember what the Zolani did for us and that we will never forget. Tell him that help is not just coming, help is already here. Ambassador Peter Kim stood in the main diplomatic hall of the Galactic Council Station orbiting the neutral world of Sanctuary 7. The massive circular chamber was filled with representatives from over 200 different species. Peter had been working for 3 weeks straight trying to convince other aliens to help with the Nerea Prime rescue mission. The response had been mixed at best. Many species thought the entire project was insane. Others worried about the political consequences of going against the Council's official decision. But Peter kept pushing because he knew that humanity could not save the Zolani alone. The gravitational calculations are sound, Peter said to a group of Centauri delegates. The Centauri were logical beings who made all decisions based on mathematical analysis. Our scientists have run the numbers thousands of times. The moon can be moved safely with the right equipment and enough careful planning. The lead Centauri delegate shook its crystalline head. Ambassador Kim, our analysis shows only a 23% probability of success. The risks far outweigh the potential benefits. The logical choice is to relocate the Zolani population to another water world. But the Zolani cannot survive on another world, Peter replied. Their biology is specifically adapted to the mineral content and pressure of their home ocean. Moving them would kill them just as surely as letting their world die. Another Centauri spoke up. Then perhaps it is simply their time? Species go extinct every day in the galaxy. It is the natural order of things. Peter felt his temper rising but kept his voice calm. The Centauri Federation exists today because humans helped defend your colonies from pirate attacks 15 years ago. We did not calculate the odds or worry about the natural order. We simply helped because it was the right thing to do. The Centauri delegates looked uncomfortable. They remembered the human space fleet arriving just in time to drive off the raiders who had been terrorizing Centauri trade routes. Without human help, the Federation might have collapsed under the economic pressure. We will consider your request, the lead delegate said finally, but we make no promises. Peter moved on to the next group. The proud Voltarian Empire had refused to even meet with him. Their ambassador had sent a written message, saying that helping the Zilani was wasteful sentimentality and that the Empire would not participate in such foolishness, but smaller species were starting to listen. The insectoid hive mind of Kepler 7 had already agreed to provide construction workers and equipment. Their queen mother had said simply, "The humans helped us establish our first colony world when no other species would trade with us. Now we help them in return, Captain Susan." Lee was having better luck with the human colonies. She had been traveling from system to system for 2 weeks asking for volunteers and resources. The response from human worlds had been overwhelming. "We need every piece of industrial equipment you can spare," Susan told the Colonial Council on New Texas. "Gravitational field generators require exotic materials and precision manufacturing. Your orbital factories are some of the best in human space." The council leader was an elderly woman named Governor Kate Murphy. She had been one of the first colonists to settle on New Texas 30 years ago. "Captain Lee, you will have everything we can give you. The Zilani helped all of humanity reach the stars. Now every human world will help save theirs." Within hours, New Texas had committed its entire industrial output for the next year to the rescue project. The mining ships in the asteroid belt began extracting rare metals needed for the gravitational manipulators. The orbital shipyards started retooling their production lines to build specialized equipment. Susan's next stop was the agricultural colonies of the Outer Rim. These worlds could not provide industrial equipment, but they had something just as valuable. "We need life support for 50,000 workers in space," she explained to the farming communities. "Food, water, breathable air, medical supplies. The project will take months, and keeping everyone alive in the harsh environment near Narration Prime will be a major challenge." The farmers did not hesitate. Colony after colony committed to providing whatever was needed. Some worlds reorganized their entire growing seasons to produce more food for the rescue mission. Others donated their best medical equipment and supplies. Back on Earth, Chief Engineer Carlos Rivera was coordinating the massive logistics effort. His office had become the nerve center for the most complex construction project in human history. Charts and displays covered every wall showing shipping routes, resource requirements, and construction schedules. "The Titan Station Mining Consortium has agreed to work triple shifts," Carlos reported to President Rodriguez during their daily briefing. "They can provide 60% of the exotic metals we need. The rest will have to come from trading with other species." Dr. Maya Patel was working with teams of engineers and scientists from across human space. "The gravitational field generator designs are complete," she said. "Each unit will be the size of a small city and require a crew of 500 people to operate. We need to build 12 of them and position them precisely around Naraya Prime's moon." "What about the alien species?" President Rodriguez asked. "How much help are we getting from the galactic community?" Ambassador Peter Kim had just returned from another round of diplomatic meetings. "It is slow going, Mr. President. The big powers like the Voltarian Empire and the Centauri Federation are staying out of it. But the smaller species are starting to commit resources." He pulled up a list on his tablet. "The Resonance Collective is providing rare crystals from their home system. They remember how human traders were the first to recognize their sentience 20 years ago. The fleet-borne nomads are offering their cargo ships to transport equipment. They have not forgotten how we sheltered their fleet during the solar storm crisis of 2361. More good news came in every day." The aquatic mare people of Oceanus Prime offered to send engineers who could work in underwater environments similar to the Zilani habitat. The silicon-based rock creatures of Granite World donated their expertise in planetary geology and tectonic stabilization. Even some unexpected allies emerged. A group of young Voltarian engineers contacted the human embassy in secret. They could not officially help because their government had forbidden it, but they were willing to share technical data and advice. "What you are trying to do is inspiring," their leader said. "It reminds us why we became engineers in the first place." Commander Lisa Brooks was assigned to coordinate with the various alien species who had agreed to help. She set up a temporary command center on the space station orbiting Nerea Prime. The sight of so many different ships arriving in the system was incredible. "I have never seen anything like this," Elder Kalthara told Lisa during one of their regular meetings. The Zelani leader looked amazed as he watched the construction fleet assembling around his dying world. Dozens of species working together, all because humanity asked them to help us. "That is not entirely true," Lisa replied. "They are helping because they remember what humans did for them in the past. Every species here owes humanity a debt of some kind. The thing is, humans never thought of those actions as creating debts. We just helped because it seemed like the right thing to do." The first gravitational field generator was completed after 2 months of intensive work. The massive structure looked like a metal city floating in space. Its exotic matter core glowed with strange energy as the field generators came online for testing. Dr. Maya Patel monitored the test from the command ship nearby. "Power levels are stable," she announced. "Gravitational field strength is within acceptable parameters. The unit is ready for deployment." Similar reports came in from construction sites across the Nerea system. Human and alien workers labored side by side in the deadly radiation environment near the dying world. When equipment failed, brave volunteers risked their lives to make repairs. When calculations needed to be checked, teams of mathematicians worked without sleep for days. The Zelani watched in wonder as their system filled with construction ships and supply vessels. Their children swam close to the underwater viewing domes to see the alien workers who had come to save their world. Many Zelani had never seen other species before, and they were amazed by the diversity of life forms working together above their oceans. "Why are they doing this?" asked a young Zelani named Korthani. "Most of these species do not even know us." Elder Kalthara smiled. "They are doing it because humans asked them to. And humans are doing it because that is who they are. When humans call someone a friend, they mean it forever. They do not forget, and they do not abandon their friends, no matter how difficult the situation becomes." The construction project entered its most dangerous phase as the gravitational field generators were moved into position around the moon. Each unit had to be placed with incredible precision. Too close and the artificial gravity would tear the moon apart. Too far away and the fields would not be strong enough to move it. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the placement operation from his ship, the Starbound. "Generator 7 is in position," he reported. "All systems showing green. Field strength optimal." 1 by 1, the massive devices took their places in a careful pattern around Nerea Prime's moon. The exotic matter cores hummed with barely contained energy. Dr. Richard Stone stood in the main control room of the command ship orbiting Nerea Prime. Banks of computers surrounded him, displaying data streams from the 12 gravitational field generators positioned around the moon. Each screen showed power levels, field strength measurements, and orbital mechanics calculations that would determine the fate of an entire civilization. "All generators report ready status," announced engineer Nicole Davis from her control station. She had been working for 18 hours straight but refused to rest during the critical opening phase of the operation. "Exotic matter cores are stable and field projectors are aligned within acceptable parameters." Commander Tony Garcia was monitoring the delicate orbital mechanics from his position near the main display. The holographic image of Nerea Prime's moon rotated slowly in the center of the room, surrounded by tiny representations of the massive gravitational manipulators. "Current lunar orbit is decaying at 2.7 kilometers per day," he reported. "If we do not begin corrections within the next 6 hours, the tidal forces will increase beyond our ability to compensate." Dr. Stone nodded grimly. The margin for error was incredibly small. Too much gravitational force applied too quickly would shatter the moon into pieces that would rain down on Nerea Prime below. Too little force and the moon would continue its death spiral into the planet, causing even worse tectonic disasters. "Zelani cities are reporting increased seismic activity," said Communications Officer Lisa Shang. The underwater settlements near the major drain sites are experiencing structural damage. Elder Kelthara says they have maybe weeks before the deepest cities become uninhabitable. The pressure was enormous. 50,000 human and alien workers had labored for 8 months to build the gravitational field generators. Dozens of species had contributed resources and expertise to make this moment possible. Now everything depended on the precision of calculations and the careful application of forces that had never been attempted on this scale before. Begin Phase 1, Dr. Stone ordered. Activate generators 1 through 4 at minimum power settings. Let us see how the moon responds to gentle persuasion before we try anything dramatic. Nicole Davis touched the activation controls on her console. Across the Narration system, 4 of the massive gravitational manipulators came online simultaneously. Their exotic matter cores pulsed with strange energy as artificial gravity fields reached out toward the moon. Fields are stable, reported Chief Engineer Carlos Rivera from Generator 4. No resonance effects detected. The moon's structure appears to be holding together under the initial gravitational stress. Dr. Stone watched the orbital mechanics. Display intently. Tiny changes in the moon's trajectory would show up as shifts in the projected path lines. For several minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then Commander Tony Garcia called out excitedly, "We have movement. Orbital velocity is increasing by 0.03%. The moon is beginning to climb toward a higher orbit." A cheer went up from the control room, but Dr. Stone raised his hand for silence. "This is just the beginning. We need to maintain steady pressure for weeks while gradually increasing the field strength. Any sudden changes could destabilize the entire system." The work was incredibly tedious and stressful. Teams of engineers monitored the gravitational fields 24 hours a day, making tiny adjustments to keep the moon moving on the correct trajectory. The exotic matter cores required constant maintenance as they consumed enormous amounts of energy to maintain the artificial gravity wells. Generator 7 is showing power fluctuations, reported technician Gary Weber during the 3rd week of operations. He was part of the maintenance crew that worked in the dangerous radiation environment near the generators. The exotic matter containment field is destabilizing. We need to shut down for repairs. Dr. Stone felt his stomach clench. Losing even one generator could throw off the delicate balance of forces acting on the moon. "How long for repairs?" he asked. "At least 6 hours," Gary replied. "Maybe longer if we find additional problems when we open up the containment chamber." "We cannot maintain proper field balance with only 11 generators," Commander Tony Garcia warned. "The asymmetric forces could send the moon tumbling out of control." Dr. Stone made a difficult decision. "Shut down the operation. Power down all generators until Generator 7 is repaired. We cannot risk losing the moon because we were impatient." The next 6 hours were agonizing. While repair crews worked frantically on the damaged generator, the moon continued its slow spiral toward Nerea Prime. Every hour of delay meant more tectonic stress on the planet below. Reports came in of new underwater volcanoes erupting and massive sinkholes opening in the ocean floor. Elder Kelthara sent a message from the planet's surface. "Dr. Stone, we understand the difficulties you face. Do not risk the safety of your people for our sake. You have already done more than we could have hoped for." But Dr. Stone was not ready to give up. Neither were the repair crews working in the hostile environment around Generator 7. Gary Weber and his team had been in their radiation suits for 12 hours, straight as they replaced damaged components in the exotic matter core. "Field containment chamber is sealed," Gary finally reported. "Initiating startup sequence now." Dr. Stone held his breath as Generator 7 came back online. The exotic matter core stabilized and began producing the powerful gravitational fields needed for the operation. "All systems green," Gary announced. "Generator 7 is back to full operational status." "Resume the operation," Dr. Stone ordered. "All generators to previous power settings. Let us get this moon back on track." The work continued for months. Human construction crews worked alongside alien engineers in conditions that pushed the limits of what was possible. The radiation environment near Nerea Prime was deadly to most life forms. Workers had to rotate in short shifts and use the most advanced protective equipment available. When Generator 3 suffered a complete power core failure, engineer Nicole Davis volunteered to go outside in a radiation suit to manually restart the backup systems. The repair took 8 hours of dangerous work in the vacuum of space while deadly radiation poured from Nerea Prime's unstable magnetic field. Core restart successful, Nicole reported as she finally made it back inside the command ship. Her radiation exposure was close to the maximum safe limit, but the generator was working again. We should be able to maintain operations for at least another month before the backup core needs replacement. Dr. Stone looked at her with admiration and concern. Nicole, you have already taken too many risks. Let someone else handle the next emergency repair. With respect, sir, there is no one else, Nicole replied. I designed these systems and I know them better than anyone. Besides, we are not doing this just for the Zilani. We are doing it to prove that impossible things can be accomplished when people work together. The most dangerous moment came during the 7th month of operations. A massive solar flare from Nerea Prime's star disrupted the gravitational fields and sent feedback surges through all 12 generators simultaneously. Warning alarms blared throughout the command center as power systems overloaded and exotic matter containment fields fluctuated wildly. Multiple generator failures, shouted Commander Tony Garcia over the noise of emergency alerts. Generators 2, 5, and 9 are offline. The others are showing critical instabilities. Dr. Stone grabbed the communications microphone. All stations, this is command. Emergency shutdown of all generators immediately. Do not attempt to restart until the solar storm passes. But it was too late for Generator 11. The exotic matter core suffered a catastrophic containment failure and exploded in a brilliant flash of energy that could be seen from the planet's surface. The shock wave damaged nearby generators and sent debris flying through space. Generator 11 is gone, reported engineer Nicole Davis grimly. The explosion took out the primary control systems on generators 10 and 12. We are down to 9 operational units. Dr. Stone stared at the tactical display showing the positions of the remaining generators. 9 units might not be enough to complete the orbital adjustment. The carefully calculated force vectors were now unbalanced and the moon's trajectory was becoming unpredictable. Can we compensate with the remaining generators? He asked. Chief Engineer Carlos Rivera ran quick calculations on his computer. Maybe we would need to increase power output on the surviving units beyond their design specifications. The risk of additional failures would be very high. What choice do we have? Dr. Stone replied. The Zilani are counting on us. We have come too far to quit now? The decision was made to push the remaining generators to their absolute limits. Power output was increased to dangerous levels as the 9 surviving units struggled to move the moon into its target orbit. More equipment failures occurred as systems operated far beyond their safe parameters, but slowly, steadily, the moon began to climb toward a stable orbit. Week by week, the gravitational forces pulling on Nerea Prime's crust grew weaker. The tectonic activity that had been draining the oceans gradually began to subside. Seismic activity is decreasing, reported Elder Calthara from the planet's surface. The underwater volcanoes are becoming less active. The drain sites are starting to seal themselves as the tectonic pressure decreases. Fleet Admiral Rachel Torres stood on the observation deck of the space station orbiting Nerea Prime 6 months after the successful completion of the moon stabilization project. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the blue-green world spinning peacefully below. The ocean levels had returned to normal and the underwater cities of the Zilani were bustling with activity once again. But the view that truly amazed her was the number of alien ships in the system. Vessels from dozens of different species filled the space around Nerea Prime. Some were bringing aid and supplies to help rebuild the damaged underwater settlements. Others were diplomatic ships carrying ambassadors who wanted to meet with human representatives. "Admiral, we have another request for a diplomatic meeting," said Captain Ben Parker as he approached with a data tablet. "This one is from the Voltarian Empire. They want to discuss a formal alliance with humanity." Rachel raised an eyebrow. The proud Voltarian Empire had refused to help with the rescue mission. Their government had called the project wasteful and impossible. Now they wanted to be friends with the species that had proven them wrong. "What are they offering?" Rachel asked. "Full access to their shield technology and defensive systems," Ben replied, "plus trading rights in their core systems and mutual defense agreements. The message says they want to align themselves with what they call the most loyal species in the galaxy," Rachel smiled. Word of humanity's extraordinary effort to save the Zilani had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The story was being told in 100 different languages on 1,000 different worlds. Humanity will move planets for their friends. The phrase had become a legend that inspired some species and worried others. Dr. Elena Martinez walked over to join the conversation. She was Earth's lead expert on alien cultures and had been studying the galactic reaction to the Naraya Prime rescue. "The political changes have been remarkable," she said. "Species that barely knew humans existed are now requesting diplomatic meetings. Others that were neutral or even hostile are suddenly offering alliance agreements." "Why?" Rachel asked. "What changed?" Elena pulled up a holographic display showing trade routes and diplomatic connections across the galaxy. Before the rescue, humanity was seen as a minor power. We had good technology and decent military forces, but we were not considered a major player in galactic politics. Now everyone wants to be our ally because they have seen what we are willing to do for our friends. The display showed dozens of new trade agreements and diplomatic treaties that had been signed in the past 6 months. Species that had never dealt with humans before were now eager to establish relationships. The reason was simple. Everyone wanted to be friends with the species that would literally move heaven and earth to help their allies. "The Centauri Federation has completely reversed their position," Elena continued. "They ran new calculations and decided that friendship with humanity provides what they call incalculable strategic value. They are offering to share their quantum communication networks with all human colonies." More good news arrived every day. The insectoid hive mind of Kepler-7 had declared humanity their eternal partners in construction and offered to help build advanced space habitats around human worlds. The Crystalline Resonance Collective had created a new harmonic frequency that they called the Human Friendship Song. The nomadic Fleetborn had offered to provide escort services for human merchant vessels throughout their territory, but the most significant changes were happening among the smaller species. Dozens of minor civilizations had formally requested protection under human diplomatic agreements. They wanted to be part of what was being called the Terran Alliance, even though no such formal organization existed yet. "We accidentally created the largest voluntary alliance in galactic history," Elena observed. "We did not set out to build an empire. We just refused to let our friends down. But apparently that kind of loyalty is so rare in the galaxy that everyone wants to experience it for themselves." President Alex Rodriguez arrived at Naraya Prime for the first anniversary celebration of the rescue mission. He was accompanied by delegations from 30 different human worlds and representatives from over 50 alien species. The gathering was being called the Galactic Friendship Festival, and it was scheduled to become an annual event. "President Rodriguez," said Elder Calthara as he greeted the human leader at the underwater reception hall. "Welcome back to Naraya Prime. As you can see, our world is thriving thanks to your people's incredible efforts." The reception hall was a marvel of Zilani architecture. Built in the depths of the ocean, it was constructed from living coral that had been shaped and grown into beautiful curved walls and chambers. Breathable atmosphere was maintained for the air-breathing guests, while the Zilani hosts swam freely through water-filled sections of the structure. "Elder Calthara, the thanks should go to everyone who worked on this project," President Rodriguez replied. "Humans could never have accomplished this alone. It took the combined efforts of dozens of species to save your world. But it was humanity that brought everyone together." Kalthara said. Your species has a gift for making friends and inspiring others to work toward common goals. The rescue of our world proved that impossible things become possible when people cooperate instead of competing. The festival continued for 3 days. Representatives from across the galaxy shared stories of cooperation and friendship. The Hive Mind Queen spoke about how human traders had been the first to recognize their intelligence and treat them as equals. The Fleetborn elders told of how human space stations had provided shelter during the great solar storms. The Resonance Collective sang harmonies that had been inspired by human music, but the most moving moment came when a group of young Zilani performed the ceremony they had created to honor their human rescuers. Swimming in formation through the water-filled sections of the reception hall, they sang an ancient song of gratitude that had been adapted with new verses about friendship and loyalty. Long ago, we sang this song to thank the ocean for providing life, explained the young Zilani leader named Korthani. Now we sing it to thank humanity for giving us back our future. The words speak of gifts freely given and friendship that lasts forever. Ambassador Peter Kim watched the ceremony with tears in his eyes. A year ago, I was struggling to convince other species to help with the rescue mission. Most of them thought we were crazy for attempting something so dangerous and expensive. Now look at this gathering. Half the galaxy wants to be part of whatever we are building. Fleet Admiral Rachel Torres nodded. The rescue mission proved something important about humanity. We keep our promises even when they seem impossible to fulfill. Other species make agreements based on profit or strategic advantage. We make friends based on shared values and mutual respect. Dr. Elena Martinez was documenting the political changes for her research. The galactic balance of power has shifted dramatically, she noted. The old system was based on fear and competition. Species formed alliances to protect themselves from threats or to gain access to resources. But the Terran Alliance is different. Species want to join because they trust us to keep our word and protect our friends. The festival concluded with Elder Kalthara delivering a speech that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. 1 year ago, our world was dying and we had nowhere to turn for help. The great powers of the galaxy had written us off as an acceptable loss. But humanity heard our call and refused to let us face extinction alone. The assembled delegates listened in silence as the elderly Zilani continued. They did not ask what we could offer in return. They did not calculate the costs and benefits. They simply said, "You are our friends and friends help each other." In doing so, they did not just move our moon. They moved the very heart of the galaxy. Kalthara gestured toward the human delegation. Humanity taught us all a truth we had forgotten. The measure of a civilization is not in its technology or its military power. It is in how it treats those who can offer nothing in return. The humans asked for no payment, no territory, no tribute for saving our world. They simply kept a promise made 40 years ago to be our friends. President Rodriguez was invited to give the closing address. He stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history and thought about how much had changed since that desperate message from the Zilani had first reached human ears. When we first received Elder Kalthara's call for help, many people told us the situation was hopeless. President Rodriguez began. They said the project was too expensive, too dangerous, too likely to fail. They were probably right about all of those things. But they forgot something important about humanity. He paused and looked around the assembled delegates. We never forget our friends. The Zilani trusted us with the secrets of space travel when we were struggling to leave our home system. They treated us as equals when other species saw us as primitive newcomers. They gave us the galaxy and asked for nothing in return except friendship. The president's voice grew stronger as he continued. So, when our friends needed help, we did not calculate the odds or worry about the cost. We simply did what friends do for each other. We kept our promise, and in doing so, we discovered something wonderful about the galaxy we live in.